Greetings, I'm Dike Rostant, and welcome to In Depth. And with all the talk about alternative flowers, people giving demonstrations on how to use them, a lot of work is being done. I think it's very fitting that we have a conversation with Baidawi Assing, founder of Eat a Food Channel, and other things to discuss alternatives to alternative flowers. Welcome, Baidawi. How are you doing?
I'm good, DK. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me again.
The pleasure is mine, and I think the conversations is really something that is helping to expand the consciousness at this point in time. But I want to start off though with your thoughts, pros and cons of alternative flower.
Well, at this point, to answer the question within context, there aren't any pros to my estimation, given what we're facing right now. I mean, the alternative flour discussion came up as a response to the rise in the price of wheat flour, and just contextualizing it as an alternative at this time. Alternative flours are more expensive, way more expensive than wheat flour. Even with the rise in price of wheat flour, the alternative flours like the root crop, they're still more expensive than the wheat. And even if you want to try it at home or do it yourself, it's a very labor intensive, time intensive process. So even me, who, I mean, I like to experiment in the kitchen and that kind of thing, you're not gonna see me trying to, do cassava flour and thing. That's not happening.
What about people who are actually doing it already? Because I get the point that scale is a thing. So if there's one person that's very labor intensive, and for them to charge a price that is equitable, you're going to be looking at a penny that little pretty. But there may be other people, and I'll call a name Slim Down 360, that to the point where I think they actually supply some other people with some of the flowers, and the people will repackage. How does that factor into the equation?
Well, I mean, so even if we consider that, you're still talking to the people who would have previously been purchasing alternative flowers. Again, the people who were doing it before will continue to do so. But I'm not seeing a situation where somebody, wasn't able to or wasn't even looking in that direction. And then as a response to the rise in wheat flour, which we have to remember is at the core of this whole conversation, choosing that as an alternative. So I understand the point, but still within the context, to me, it's not a viable alternative.
So plain talk, bad manners. How it is we dealing with it? So what's the alternative to alternative flour? If we're saying that, well, wheat flour no bueno at this point in time, be it reactions or just reactions in your pocket.
Well, I mean, for me, is the simplest alternative is to eat the root crops. Understand? So boil the cassava, boil the sweet potato, eat a yam, eat your eddos, and just deal with the root crop as is. To me, it's like if you're asking for a response to this thing, where you wanna nourish your family, nourish yourself, and we all, I guess not we all, but most of us pinching pennies out here. I think that the real alternative, the real viable response is to just eat root crops as is, it readily available. And not just root crops, we have green fig as well. Green fig is something that you can find all over Trinidad and Tobago. So even staples like that, you use that and replace flour in the diet as much as you can.
And with that in mind, is it do you look at it as a challenge or a simple solution or an opportunity? Because many of these things here, you see all these things in the market, they're there. So as opposed to saying, okay, well, we need to find something. There are things that are looking at us in our face.
Yeah, it's right there. We see it all the time. I mean, but we also had to be cognizant of the fact that in terms of our eating habits, our food culture, we have been inundated with messaging and a proliferation of foreign foods. A lot of the gyros, the hot dogs, the burgers, that kind of thing. our diets have changed drastically, I think, even from when I was growing up, where, like fast food and that kind of thing was a treat. Now it's like an everyday thing. So people kind of move away from eating like the provisions and that kind of thing, and we more focusing on more ready-made, more quick. People in looking to cook and that kind of thing. So it's a challenge because it's a challenge from the perspective of getting people to change the perspective on how they should eat, what they should eat. But in terms of availability, that is not a challenge because, as I said, we have it there in the market every week. We have, boats coming. You have people growing it right here as well. Dasheen, yam, edos, everything. It there for us. Green fig, it there. Plantain, it all there. It's just getting people to kind of change the mindset and see that this is a viable solution.
And with regard to the work of changing the mindset in the 2 minutes that we have before the break, how important is a platform like True That? How important is a platform like Eater Food? How important is it that we kind of start to normalize some of these things to the point where, well, I won't call the name right now, but I know somebody that when they finish cook something and a lot of it local, the person was,
I think it's very important for platforms like Eater Food and other the other bloggers, the other foodies and that kind of thing to kind of jump on board. I think it should be something of a movement. You understand? I think everybody should get on board if you have a platform. It's responsible messaging at this time, I think, to really get the message across that we really should be paying special attention to how we eat and just trying to change our relationship with food.
Just before we take that break though, so we're speaking and we mentioned Eater Food and the channel and the platform. Let us not assume that everyone knows what that is. So give us an overview of that, thanks.
Right, so Eater Food originally started by Quincy Ross and I came on board and running it right now. Eater Food is a website and a YouTube channel, and we also have social media and that kind of thing. So you can find us online at eaterfoodtt.com. We're on YouTube as Eater Food. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as well. And yeah, the platform, the channel is dedicated to showcasing local food, food culture, politics around food, not just eating, but the whole process of growing to preparing and then eating being the last stage of it. We be involved in showcasing each part of the process. So this is an important conversation for us to be having at this time.
And we continue the conversation when we return. We're speaking with Baidawi Assing. Stay with us. We'll return with more. Welcome back. We are going in depth on alternatives to alternative flour, as well as conversations surrounding that. We are doing this with none other than the bay leaf banton himself, Baidawi Assing. And so bay leaf, ruku, and natto, and some of these things, do you find, Baidawi, is almost as though you kind of peeling back the curtains on some things to certain people who are tuning into the channel, who are tuning into the platforms?
I think so. I mean, it wasn't really my intention. It's just that it's something that happened organically. I know about it growing up and my grandmother making porridge and thing, the bay leaf would have been there and that kind of thing. It's just that me getting back into cooking and kind of returning to those roots with, your mother cooking, your grandmother cooking, and trying to move away from, like I said, like the foreign-based things and try to get back to what we know as local and homegrown stuff. That's how I end back up rediscovering, if you will, bay leaf and ruku and that kind of thing. And me sharing it was really just my enthusiasm, my excitement to really rediscover just how much flavor these things could put back into, as a oats man, I just eat oats all the time, you understand? So #strength, you understand? So I like to put my little bay leaf in my oats, and then when I do another stew, I like to put a little ruku in and that kind of thing. So I think me just kind of diving back into that and being excited about it and sharing it, I think other people kind of connected with it because people probably would have remembered it as well. Or even people who didn't know about it and discovering, hey, there's something that we just use that has give our food real best flavor and that kind of thing. I think the excitement is a shared kind of thing. So I embrace it. As I say, people just call my influencer. I don't like the influencer title. But if they call my belief and a Ruku influencer, I will take it.
And I kid you not, Baidawi, following some of the conversations that I've seen you having, actually visited by my granny from Maruga, my granny with strong family in Grenada. So she's great Vicks in the nutmeg, and let's take it to a whole other level. And I miss her because it's a long time I get a bush bath in an enamel basin. Well, I need bigger basins now. But,
yeah. I made a couple of basins.
You understand? But it's like about 5 bay leaf trees that my aunt would have planted in that space, and I'd be like, the people know things. So in terms of like that shared excitement, and you just spoke about a movement, the collaborative explorations and people saying, okay, well, you can use this, you can use breadfruit instead of potato to make the shepherd pie. And how important is it at this point in time and going forward to your estimation?
I think it is of the utmost importance, actually, in terms of, again, getting our nourishment. And then a thing that I was thinking about because I recently was writing about the whole alternative flour thing, and something that, it took me down a path of kind of understanding our relationship with food as it pertains to our relationship with the land. Because of globalization, a lot of the food that we consume is food that coming far away from us. Understand? Whereas traditionally, as humans, and I guess not getting too deep into history and thing, but with the evolution and civilization and thing, traditionally we would eat what we grow. You understand? Where we will eat things from our surroundings, and we have been far removed from that kind of experience. And I think again, now is a perfect opportunity to kind of embrace that, and yeah, use the things that we have here. We talking about supporting local, eating local for years, but I think at times it has started to feel like it's more sloganeering from it, like more than anything else now. It's like we just throw it out as buzzwords, but we really had the action behind it. And I think now, because I mean, it's a little reactionary, but it also presents a perfect opportunity to kind of go behind this as a full thrust and try to invoke some kind of behavior change within the population to really kind of rekindle that.
But how can we be how can we be proactive with our reactions? And I know someone saying, don't call me reactionary. What I'm doing, the responses.
Right.
Because even like on Eater Food, I saw there was a recipe that was I nearly say bully beef, corned beef kibi.
Right.
And
yeah.
Then how can we, and I'm gonna use the word that you're a little sensitive about, how can we influence the people who are influencing us? Because even in SVG, I saw the point in time they were using, and I go back to breadfruit, Hail Omarlad Maharaj as well, but using breadfruit instead of potato for the fries.
Yes.
So
yeah.
if these are things that are closer to us, you have the raw materials that you can use and use them to a fairly a level of consistency, because that has been one of the arguments as well. Can we get it on a consistent basis? How can we do some of these things? So yes, these things are here, but we also, I guess, train in the palate because people are used to this. But things would have changed a little bit for people to become used to it. So how do we go back to what we know, who we are?
Well, it's got to be, an effort where everybody involved. It can't just be me with a food channel talking about it, or, the foodies online talking about it online, because not everybody online, not everybody consuming that kind of content online. So what we're talking about is, chefs. We're talking about chefs getting involved and incorporating those kind of items on the menu. We're talking about the fast food restaurants that doing potato fries, work with we have companies down here doing the frozen cassava and that kind of thing. Work with them to provide cassava fries, to provide breadfruit chips. and start to introduce it on your menu, and let it be, a effort where everybody involved trying to, just get involved in eating closer to home. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think everybody, all the stakeholders, really need to come together and see this as an opportunity to really, eat local, support local in a real way.
And speaking about chefs, you've previously said that you're not a chef, and you're talking about creating content. You create
Yes.
different types of content. Tell me a little
Yes.
bit about Guava Season, please.
Guava Season is a recipe book that I procrastinated on in, that was 2020 or 2021. These last 2 years is a blur. It's got mixed up between the years. But it is a recipe book of 25 recipes that I put together with a focus on it being a response, not a reaction, but a response to the economic times. It's not any new recipes. It wasn't recipes that I created. It just so happened to be recipes that I was doing along the way that I think fit into these kind of times. Just kind of getting people to understand that you could make delicious meals, you could make nutritious meals that don't cost an arm and a leg to make. So to be perfectly honest, that's how I cook on a regular basis. I already cook like, people think I just real cook like elaborate meals and that kind of thing. No, I real kind of simple. I say green fig and stew peas, man. Understand? I like my lentil peas and dumpling. You know what I mean? So I just eat pretty basic, people would call basic. And I wanted to do a cookbook or do a recipe book that kind of showcased, highlighted, and celebrated that type of eating, that type of food, especially now in these times, guava season, that people could find inspiration to get into the kitchen and feed the families, feed the self on a budget.
No, but that way I find it funny that even when you're not trying to, is like you have some backs waiting in the wings. I see you mention a peas. I remember one time you were asking whether or not it's lentil peas or pigeon peas, so people think. And we're not even talking about the dumpling or pela was. But in the last
Right.
minute and a half we have, how do you feel when you see people send pictures, show videos of things that they have created using the recipes or suggestions that you've given, and any other thing that you want to put inside that minute?
I mean, it's really a great feeling. I can't even express how much joy it does bring to see people actually trying the recipes, because at the end of the day, that is exactly why I created it, doing it for the purpose of people trying it. And it's hard to do recipes, because I mean, I am not a recipe man. When I'm making food, it's what I feel. It's like, all right, I feel I throw enough salt there, I throw enough thing there, you understand? So getting, having to nail it down to a recipe and then tell people how to cook. I always appreciate when people try a recipe, but more than that, do their own thing. You understand? So I try a recipe, but I add this, I add that, because that's the way to cook. Don't follow it. My thing is just a guide. You know what I mean? And if people could see it, get some inspiration and jump in and do their own thing, that is what it's all about. That is the reason why I'm doing all of this. That's why, paying up recipes every week and on social media talking about food and that kind of thing. The intent is for people to try the recipes, and I'm really glad that they're actually doing it. And I just want to encourage people to do more, share more with the friends, family, and yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, because the bills need to get paid.
After drunk or sober, mind your business. But we want to thank you very, very, very much, Baidawi Assing. Eat a food, looking at it, and you see in the t-shirt as well. So, and on behalf of the entire TTT News team, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth with me. Thank you so much for joining us.